This video is sponsored by Wildlife Command Center Coffee. More about them at the end of the video. Hey everybody, it's me, John Ward, and I am back with the second video for two filmmakers reviewing one film. And today, my guest is
Paul A. Presenza, otherwise known as the Moo Cow. How's it going, everybody?
Moo.
Excellent.
You know, back in back in middle school, I was known as the Holy Cow. I would walk around.
Outstanding, sir.
I had like this jacket that had a white collar on it, and it was a black jacket, and I would flip it around so it looked like I was a priest, and I would walk around to people and bless them by mooing.
That's awesome. I love that.
So I was known as the Holy Cow. So if I walked into a room, they go, "It's the Holy Cow." So, and then I would go moo, and I would bless them by mooing.
Back in high school, I had a reverse mullet, so it was real long and curly in the front. I listened to punk music, and I was known pretty much as a giant pain in the ass.
So you look like one of the misfits.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I ain't no goddamn son of a bitch.
That's right. But we know plenty of people who are.
That's true.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I wanted you on, which is why I also wanted Jonathan Moody on for the first episode and you on for the second, is because you guys really influenced me and helped me to do all of this. I have the YouTube channel because of you two. I have multiple videos now of different things, like, you know, two filmmakers or one filmmaker or just me reviewing stuff. And it's all because of you guys. You know, it's just I was pushed forward from, you know, because of you guys. And now I love doing this. So thank you.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. And, you know, we love the indie film community and we want to see more stuff out there. And we definitely want to get more talented people involved. And we're really pleased that you're part of the Indie Film Cafe family. Well,
thank you. And I appreciate it. I love being part of it. So the reviews after midnight are very fun for me. So I could be a little more angry with those because it's after midnight. It's the adult time. Exactly. The kids are asleep. The adults are still up, maybe. But today I asked you, and you said that you had not seen it, which I went because you had not seen it, which is the film Identity,
right?
Which I absolutely love. And it is directed by James Mangold, who also did like Copland and many other films. He's doing the new Indiana Jones film, and we'll have to see what happens with that, but I will probably wait till video. So what are because you're my guest, please go first. What are your thoughts?
I liked the movie. I remember when it first came out, I thought, okay, you know, I read about it and it seemed heavily contrived. And I typically don't like a movie that's kind of like that. And I was a little worried because the writer, Michael Cooney, had written all the Jack Frost movies. So I'm like, you know, it's one thing to do a silly stinker, but we're talking a movie that had somewhere between 25 and $30 million, which is a pretty good sized film. I don't know that he's going to be able to do. Oops, sorry, technical difficulties. I think I was explaining that I had seen Copland before from John Mangold, and I had really liked it. I had gone into that movie not expecting much because, you know, Sylvester Stallone, and it's probably going to be another shoot 'em up. And it turned out to be a much different, darker, more introspective character study than I had anticipated.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought it was really well directed. And so that was really cool. And then I didn't anticipate liking Girl Interrupted either. And it turned out I enjoyed that as well. So I was kind of on the fence, and at some point I wanted to see it, but I don't remember at the time, but I just never got around to it. And I never got around to getting it on DVD either. It just kind of fell through the cracks. So it's just, I mean, I'm watching movies constantly, and there's this gigantous list of movies that I need to get to, and it just happened to be, one of the movies on that list. That's all.
And you were referring to the Jack Frost films. Now, are you talking about the Michael Keaton Jack Frost?
Oh no.
Which Jack Frost are you referring to?
Bad one. We're talking about the Jack Frost Killer Snowman movies. Yeah. Those, I mean, trust me, those are the ones that they're terrible, but I actually kind of like them, as opposed to the Michael Keaton one, which is awful and just unlikable.
Yeah, and it's weird because didn't they come out around the same time? Like the first one, both Jack Frost films, and people were getting them confused. I know there's memes going, I really loved back in the day of swapping these two like VHS tapes out, and you see like the Michael Keaton one, and then you see the horror movie one. And we used to do stuff like that at the video store I worked at. So if you could find a kid's film and there's the adult version of it, we would swap it, and see what would happen. So, we're kind of little jerks about that. So what, and of course,
that's exactly the kind of thing I would have done.
And of course, the director on this is, I really enjoy him. I'm popping stuff up right now I should have done this before we got on, but it's easy enough to do. I was hoping it was a Wikipedia thing. Oh, there it is. Okay. So with the director of this, like we mentioned, Copland, and of course Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. He has also worked on Oliver and Company, which I'm guessing is the Disney movie. I would think 1988, maybe. Heavy, which I've never seen. I've heard it's good. Yeah, Copland.
Yeah, I've never heard that either. Or seen it either.
Heavy, I think, is with it's like Liv Tyler's first film.
Oh, okay.
Well, let me click on it and find out.
Yeah, I do see. Oh, yeah, there she is. Taylor Vince is in there too. Oh, and Shelley Winters. Wow, that's an interesting combo right there.
Yeah.
And Debbie Harry. Wow.
That's a good cast.
Evan Dando. Holy shit.
So we got, Copland, Girl Interrupted, which I've actually never seen, but I've heard it's good. Lift, you can't click on.
Yeah.
Kate and Leopold, I heard is okay, but it's more of kind of a chick flick. But I mean, I've heard it's all right.
Yeah, I didn't really go near that one.
Yeah, either did I. It's got a good cast though. Walk the Line was good. The Johnny Cash film.
I didn't see that.
3:10 to Yuma, which is a remake. I haven't seen it, but I've seen the original.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good. I'm not a big, reboot fan, but that was pretty good.
Night and Day. Night spelt like a knight with armor. That's the Tom Cruise movie, which I love. I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan.
Saw it.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's also with Cameron Diaz. So, I mean, there was some, we're kind of hit and miss on some stuff here with him, like The Wolverine, which was, I guess, the best one to come out until the last one. Logan. Oh, he did Logan too. So he did The Wolverine and then he did Logan. So until Logan, The Wolverine was the best one.
Yeah, I saw The Wolverine. I haven't seen Logan. I'm, as Moody will tell you, I'm very, very much over superhero movies. So I generally avoid them like the plague.
Logan is well worth watching. It's one of the best ones ever made. It is so good. Apparently he's friends with Hugh Jackman because he also made The Greatest Showman.
Right.
He did the great film Ford versus Ferrari, which was really good. The Call of the Wild with Harrison Ford. And I'm guessing that's how he replaced Spielberg on Indiana Jones. So so he's done some stuff in there.
Well, apparently he's also doing the screenplay for Indiana Jones 5, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, I'm politically not looking forward to it, and I have a huge issue with what's going on with it. So Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, there's a a certain writer that's going to make it all woke that I'm not happy with. So I'm just not going to bother with it. I'll see it when it comes out
Well,
on
as
streaming.
poor as the last one was, I mean, I would have thought it would have killed the franchise. But no, it's, of course, Hollywood's going to just shout out another shambling zombie of a movie because it's just cheaper and easier for them to just resurrect the corpse of an earlier movie, beloved movie, than it is to take a risk with something that's new and interesting. And it's a shame because you got to wonder if today a movie like Identity would even get the 25, 30 million bucks in order to get it made. You know what I mean?
No, and especially now learning who wrote it, I would definitely say no. So that's yeah, I don't think so at all. And Identity it's got a great cast in it too, because this could have just
Great
been
cast.
a B movie that was cost $1 million or less, and then that's they just grab a whole bunch of just cheesy actors to put in it. I mean, we got John Cusack, we got Ray Iola, we got Amanda Peet. Where did she go? She disappeared. Clea Duvall.
I know.
Let's see, William Lee Scott, Rebecca De Monet, John C. McGinley. I mean, Jake Busey. I mean, come on, Alfred Molina. I mean, these are some. Yeah, we got some good people in this. So it's.
Yeah, it's a great ensemble cast with people. There's not like one guy, like one main star. It's a bunch of smaller, stars or medium stars, which is good because that's medium stars and good character actors, which is a good mix for this kind of film. I think if it had one star, like I don't know, oh God, I don't know, anybody from back then, Julia Roberts or somebody who would have outshined all the rest, I think that would have been a bad move.
I agree with you. Because it's you need that cast that's kind of on that same level,
right?
But yet you still need for their names to be known to get people to go see it. Because I don't think this film should have worked. And there's going to be spoilers in this for people, like major spoilers. So, I should not have liked this movie with the twist. I should have not liked it. But I loved it because it worked. It was well written. It was well directed, acted, and all that stuff.
I think this sort of comes when, a lot of movie makers were sort of trying to do the M. Night Shyamalan thing where they were trying to work in the twist wherever they could. And in this movie, they put in a few too many twists, in my opinion. The last twist is one too many, in my opinion. That's the one that really doesn't work for me. But everything else aside, it was pretty good. And I think that those people who just kind of want to go there and be mindlessly entertained there's going to be enough in there that they're going to like it. And those of us who want to go there for a little bit more of a thoughtful kind of movie experience, I think you're going to enjoy that as well. I don't know that it's quite as clever as it wants to be in the screenplay, because like I said, I think there's one twist too many, and that final twist kind of pulls the rug out in a way that I think almost kind of cheapens the film, frankly. But overall, I still think that it was a very, very good and well-written movie, surprisingly, and it was directed very well. It's originally, when I first started watching it, my fears were like, okay, this is extremely contrived, like I thought it was going to be. But then it turns out there are reasons for that. And without getting too much into it, there are definite reasons for that. But, things like when John Cusack's limo guy, who's the former cop, when he goes in and, he's accidentally hit this person on the road, and, he's feeling terrible about it. And he wants to get her situated in the hotel room and everything. And when he finally gets into his room and he collapses, does he go to sleep like you would expect any normal human being to do? No, he just gets up all of a sudden and wanders off into the laundry room so that he can find the first clue. And it's like, why would you do that? And why would you go to each laundry thing and just stop it just for the hell of it and then look in? You wouldn't do that. but you do that because A, the script demands it, but B, there's a deeper reason why, and you come to find that out later on. Usually with a Hollywood movie, 9 times out of 10, it's just being lazy. And that's kind of where I was fearing that this was going, but it turns out no, that there's a reason for that. Same thing with Clea Duvall's character and the boyfriend, both acting like sheer complete morons. There is a reason for that. And it's like, God, can't you just sit down? You have to just wig out, and that's why everybody dies, and blah 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 blah. But yeah, there's a reason for that. So you know what I mean? So I was a little worried, but it turned out there were reasons for it.
Well, yeah, like when I originally saw this in the theater when it first came out, because this would be 2003.
2003.
Yeah, I went to go see with a couple friends of mine, and when we see Jake Busey and he's got the bat shoved down his throat, my friends are like, "Come on, really, come on." They're like, what is this? Just like a Roger Corman movie, come on, and they didn't believe it. But once you realize that, and like I told people, spoilers. So if I ruin it for you, this film did come out in 2003. So, but,
right.
But once you find out that this is in the guy's head, so the I guess you want to, like, the convict or criminal's head, and we find out that these are multiple personalities and they're all connected in some way, the bat makes more sense because it's in his head. Like if it was real life,
yes, it's all metaphoric.
Yeah, it starts to make a little more sense. And one thing that I find funny is, the guy who plays the guy that runs the motel is he hates whores. He hates whores. But funny is Rebecca De Mornay looks more like a whore than Amanda Peet does. She looks just normal. She's just in like a mini skirt. Right. That's about it. But yet, Rebecca De Mornay has like her breasts all up, and she looks much more like a call girl, than anything.
And I guess he also recognizes her, and says, "Oh, aren't you the actress? Whatever." So he automatically gives her some respect, whereas Amanda Peet's character comes in, and for some reason he knows right off the bat what she is and what she's about, which is, again, a bit of a contrivance, but it makes more sense because that's the way this person's brain has kind of made it work. So you have to allow that. If that never happens, if it never comes again, if it's just supposed to be reality, then there's a lot of weird stuff that it should not be happening. For various reasons.
Because I like how this is paced. It's one. Well, I'll get to pacing in a second, but it's one. I love the setting. So it's at this crappy motel in the middle of nowhere. It's storming and flooding, and everybody is being brought to this motel, which I think is like the center of the patient's brain. So they're in this hotel, and then they all get there, and they're trapped off by the roads and stuff that are being flooded. So they're being forced to go there, and it just looks beautiful. Like everything in that motel looks great. And it's just from the rain to the lighting to what's around it, kind of like surrounding it, like the junk and everything, what's in each room. There's a making of on the DVD, and I believe it's all a set. You could tell that they're obvious that the rain is warm because they never have cold breath. So it's just like, okay, so obviously for the comfort of the actors, but what a miserable shoot that must have been. I mean, just being constantly rained on for like 30 days or whatever it was, 40 days that they were shooting. And, but it's everything just seems to just lead to this one location, and all these people for some reason have something to do with this patient's brain, with the multiple personalities. And
and that's another thing about the screenplay, that it's interesting, and there's different levels on it, which is cool, but in a way it also bugs me a little bit because it seems like it's kind of setting you up for sort of like 10 Little Indians meets Psycho, when really This movie is more Three Faces of Eve, because this movie is really about multiple personality disorders and how that affects a person, and in theory how that can affect how you punish somebody in a crime who has this. And
Sure.
it seems to me that that's really where the meat of the story should have gone on. I would like to have seen more of that and less of the horror film killing aspects and the 10 9 8 7 6 kind of a thing, because there's a lot to be said for that. And it's even to today, we are still trying to wrestle with the idea of what to do with mentally ill people. And they are, there are people who are mentally ill who are committing crimes, and how do you deal with that? And multiple personality disorder is a very, very extremely intricate crime that not or condition that can lead to crimes, and we really don't know exactly how to proceed with that. It's still being explored, and I just think that could have been a meatier subject to have tackled. You know what I mean?
So do you think that this film, especially when it was made, like today, it would all be politically correct and all that stuff. Do you think that this
Yeah.
kind of shows people with like mental disorders in a bad light? Or do you think it kind of does a good job? Or
Well, it's interesting. I went on to several other review sites just to sort of get a sense of what some other people were thinking. And one of the ones I went on to, it was something called the Political Review, and they sort of review movies from a political slant. And I thought, well, now that's interesting. This is a horror movie. I would not have expected this to have shown up there.
sure.
And so they talked about it, and they kind of said a lot of the same things that you and I are saying. But in the end, towards the end, they said something along the lines of, it's showing some leftist kind of ideas because of the whole mental illness thing, and somebody getting off because they're using their mental capacity as a way out. But that's not what happens in the movie. In the movie, the guy sort of explains this guy's not necessarily responsible for what's happening because of his condition, but he's not getting away with it, because towards the end, they think that they got to the one personality, but they didn't. And of course, the real one comes back and he ends up killing the other people. So nobody got away with anything. You know what I mean?
Right, right, and that's one of the things that I liked about this, especially of how it's structured. I guess that's what I was originally going to kind of get into, and then I went off in a different direction. But is we're watching all the people at the motel. We think this is real, and then we see the lawyers and the doctors and stuff wanting to talk to the judge to get the patient out of death row. And they're saying, no, we need to wait. Don't you think that we should wait until the patient gets here? And I thought, I don't know, maybe if you thought the same thing, but I was thinking that's Jake Busey. They're waiting for Jake Busey.
Yeah.
Iola is the cop who's bringing him. They get trapped, and they don't know. They're having to wait for them. And then, and of course, since this is like a murder thing, and then we're seeing people get murdered, and immediately your mind goes to Jake Busey. And the thing that I love with him is once he escapes, and he's just a creepy dude anyways. I mean, people think his dad is weird and creepy and all that. Jake Busey to me is creepier. He's just, just naturally creepy. I like him. He's a good actor.
Oh, but yeah, that's the typical role for him too.
Yeah. And what I like is out of nowhere, all of a sudden he escapes and he's running and he's running and he's running through the rain and the desert. And he's running. And then all of a sudden he sees a building, comes back, goes into it, looks through the window, and he's right back at the motel again. Now there's something going on, like some sort of sci-fi time loop thing going on with this. So now it's not just horror, there's science fiction thrown into it.
Right, because the thing is that even the individual personalities don't understand what's going on because they don't know that they're part of a multiple personality disorder.
Right.
So that's the only way it can explain that he can't get away, is the fact that there is no place for him to get away from. So that's the only reason he's coming, he thinks he's leaving, but he's going back to where he was. And it's, his personality is not going to be able to understand it but the overall brain that's putting all of this together, that's contriving all this, that's the only way that it can do that. The other thing is that remember, his character also seems to have some knowledge that normally he should not have. Like he says, he keeps talking to John Hawkes' character. What do you got in the freezer? What do you got in the freezer? Like he knows something. And then later on, he says, I don't know what you know, but I've got a big whopper of a secret. And I'm like, okay, what is that secret? How does he know it? You know what I mean? And it's because, he's not a normal individual person. He's part of this other group, and he doesn't know it, and he doesn't understand it. So he's getting knowledge that he shouldn't, but it's the only way.
Well, yeah, and what I took from that is because that's before we get the time loop, before he comes back, and he's saying these things, is that he's a killer and he knows a killer. So I think that's why he's saying, oh, I know, I got a big secret. You got a secret. What's inside the freezer? He knows it's a body. I mean, that's what you're supposed to be thinking, I would imagine, before we start kind of really getting down to what this is all about. So he could pick a killer out. So if he went to the Bates Motel, he would probably know instantly that Norman is a killer.
Yes, but remember, John Hawkes, I don't think is. I mean, other than accidentally, I think he's exactly who he says he is, a schmuck who just happened in when the guy was dead and didn't know and what to do, so he threw him in the freezer, and then just picked up the guy's place and said, "Okay, I got nothing better to do. I'll just take people's money." That makes sense, other than the fact that it wouldn't really work in reality.
Right. And it's not the worst idea. I mean, it's granted he shouldn't be doing what he's doing. He finds a dead body, he should call the police. But it doesn't seem like he's stealing. He does take, Rebecca DuVernay's money. He does take that and stuff like that. So he's a little shady, a little scummy. But it seems like he's running a motel. He's taking the money, like the motel is probably the way that he found it. And so it doesn't seem like he's killing people or right, or scamming them or anything. He seems like he's just took over that position and he's running a motel. So it's so maybe Jake Busey didn't know that he, wasn't thinking, you're a killer, but you just did something wrong. You hid the body, you're running when you should be like, he knows these types of things. But I'm going, of course, totally off of that. We don't know anything else yet, that, maybe of why he said that type of thing. Because, what is Jake Busey's big secret? What is it?
And that's what I was going to say. His big secret is the fact that he knows Ray Liotta's character is actually a convict like him.
Oh,
that he's killed the cop, and the cop is in the trunk.
Oh, I didn't even think of that, and I've seen this film 3 times now. Oh, okay. You picked up on something I didn't. All right, that would be a big secret. Yeah, I was thinking murder, like he murdered somebody, and that's his big secret that he didn't tell somebody. Okay, all right.
And it's funny because the assumption is that these two are probably in cahoots trying to make this escape. But when you go back and think about it, Ray Liotta's character treats Jake Busey's character like shit the entire time, even when they're alone together. Even when they're alone together, and there's no reason for them to play pretend cop with pretend convict, he treats him like shit anyway. So,
yeah, I would think that he kills the cop that was transporting them. And this is for people watching this. So he kills the cop that's transporting them. He switches clothes. And then he pretends to be the cop, and of course, Jake Busey is the convict in the back of the cop car. My thought is he didn't want to let Jake Busey out. Like he figured, of course, he would just drive to wherever he's going to. I figured that probably Ray would kill him. So it's like, I can't let him go because if somebody picks him up or he wants to talk, but wherever I'm getting to, if it's like Mexico or wherever I'm going to, I'll just kill him and just leave him in the car, and then I'll just go to Mexico. Those were my
Sure.
thoughts with how he works, is that, I can't leave him around.
Right. He knows too much. So
Yeah.
Ray should kill him. And by the way, you would never get one cop transporting two dangerous convicts in a car. So there's all this stuff which should not be happening in reality and does not happen in reality. But again, this is all going back to the guy's brain coming up with this. So he doesn't know any better, and your brain puts together weird stuff in order to make things make sense, forcing things in there. And that's just another example of how this is going.
Do you think it should have been more realistic to fool the audience? Like maybe they should have been in a van and there's two guards?
I mean, partially, yeah. I think there are going to be some people who are a little confused about everything. I mean, I wasn't, but I imagine there are plenty of those who were. Everything that I've read seemed to suggest that most people liked it. I think it made something like $95 million on a $25-30 million budget. So I guess it did well when it came out. I don't remember much about it when it came out, other than I knew it came out. But I don't remember it being, everybody saying it was really good, or it was really bad, or it was in between. Or I don't really recall. Do you recall what the buzz was?
Not really, no. I mean, because I wasn't really into looking at a ton of reviews and stuff. I mean, I remember back then it was mostly papers. So there wasn't, a big internet thing yet. It wasn't like gigantic like it is now. So I don't remember. I mean, I know that when I went to go see with my friends, we liked it. And I think I especially liked it because I felt that it was it felt like a Hitchcock movie that was written by David Mamet. And I really liked that because I'm a big Mamet fan, and Mamet has his own dialogue. He has his own language where like he can make the word fuck sound elegant. It's just,
sure.
And so in Identity, I really enjoyed people repeating themselves, which I normally don't like. But I like in this that like John Cusack, he kind of repeats himself a lot, where he'd be like, it's raining really hard outside. What are we going to do? And really all we needed was it's raining outside. What will we do? But it works with the repeating of it, and especially near the end where we see him in place of the patient, at the hearing, where he's kind of looking all around, all confused and dazed. And there's the big white around him and all that. And he's constantly confused and repeating himself. And that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, I'd have not liked this without having the deeper reveal later on, and I would have been complaining and I would have been irritated because there are things like when it becomes patently obvious that there's more stuff going on, and the one guy ends up killing him, and he's trying to say no, it wasn't me, and Rebecca and Amanda Peet's character says, his story is so unbelievable that it must be true. And I'm like, yeah. No, that's not how the world works. If it's so unbelievable, it's not true. It never is. And then, John Cusack's character says she has a point. I'm like, she does not have a point. But again, in terms of the way that this is all contrived by this guy's brain, it makes sense in that respect. Any other time it would not have, and it would have bugged me. But it was a nice little moment there.
Well, and where this film succeeds, I think something like Sucker Punch fails. Even though I did enjoy, Sucker Punch, and I, like his films, I did not like that this was that. Like 2 seconds before the nail goes into her eye to give her the lobotomy. Like, this is how she's dealing with everything. I thought this is an utter waste of time. Visually, it looks great. This would have worked maybe as a heavy metal movie where there were just separate stories. Like, why am I watching this if this is just like 2 or 3 seconds before she gets lobotomized? But I still liked it, but not as much as I should have, I think. Where something like this, I did enjoy. And I thought that all the personalities worked. And because you really should be saying, like, once you realize that these are just personalities and they're getting killed off, once we cut back to the motel, you shouldn't care. And you do. Right. You still care. Like Amanda Pete's running all around and you're still worried that she may be killed.
My only other issue is that it does kind of telegraph itself a little bit when, you know, when we've been following the characters getting killed off one at a time, starting 10, 9, 8, 7. But then you have those other two characters that sort of kind of die, Cleve Duvall's character and the kid, and we don't find the numbers with them. So all of a sudden the movie has broken its own rules and we're not sure why. So I had to figure somewhere along the line, one of those two characters was going to come back, and it turned out one of them did. But we never found out what happened to Cleve Duvall's character.
But with the boyfriend or husband of hers, they do find it in his hands.
But that was for him, though, right? That wasn't for her.
No, how did
she's still one of the 10. She still needs to get her own number.
How did she die?
She and the kid go to the car
and they blow up.
Run away, and the car blows up for no reason.
Yeah,
and we don't see a number for either one of them.
Well, at the end, we find out why we don't find one for the kid.
Right.
So there should have been one for Duvall. I'm trying
Duvall's
to think.
Character. And that's why I expected one or the other somewhere along the line to pop up and do something. I just wasn't sure towards the very, very end with the kid.
Because we found one with John C. McGinley. They got one from him because they pulled that out of his pocket. Then they found one in the dryer, the laundry room dryer. Found one with the husband as he's against the wall. That's a scene I really liked, actually, is we keep all with Duvall in the bathroom. And at first he's trying to get in there to calm her, like, you know, to stop her from screaming. You know, I was going crazy. You know, just God, shut her up. Please shut her up. And then it flips. And now he really starts banging on it. Like, you know, open the door, let me in type of thing. Because now he's being attacked.
Right.
And I thought they did that well because they gave just enough of a gap from him, like, let me in, you bitch, to, oh my God, quick, let me in, I'm going to be killed. And it worked. And she even seems to realize that something is different when she goes out and she sees him killed. And I like, and I'm a big person on this, when people died, their eyes were open. I watch for that in this. I hate in movies when people die and their eyes are shut. You do not die with your eyes shut unless you fall asleep and you die. That was my biggest complaint with like Dark Knight Rises. Is you're constantly seeing people, with their eyes shut and they're on the ground, and it's just like no, and it kind of took it away from me that they didn't work with that detail.
Some people pass out before they die. I don't know. It's a contrivance, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, it frustrates me when I've made my own films, your eyes are open. When I've worked on other people's movies, they say my eyes they have to be open unless I'm sleeping. If I die in my sleep, then that's one thing. But I really like, because it's also thematically, it's creepier. Somebody's eyes shut is not creepy, but if you're looking somebody dead in the eye and their neck is cut, that's creepy.
It is a lot creepier. It's also harder on the actor to have to keep their eyes open without blinking.
Well, you let them blink until you yell, action, and then they got to keep it open. That's why they're getting paid millions of dollars.
It's funny. Some directors, especially some of the great classic directors, have gotten around that by having things like, you see a close-up of an eye and it's not blinking because it's a dead person. Well, it turns out it's not really a person. It's actually the eye of a dead pig or a dead cow. It's just shot in such a way that, you're not seeing for what it is. So there are tricks, or they're dummies or something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's ways of doing it. So, but I like that they did that in this film. It's just a little detail that, that I really enjoyed. And there's one point in this with when we cut back from Cusack being in the patient, now we see him in that room. When he comes back to the motel, it's almost like he's disappeared, like literally disappeared when he takes over that guy's, body as that personality, because Amanda Peet says, "What happened to you? Where did you go? Like, what happened?" And I almost like, oh, maybe did he like just disappear? I mean, he's outside in the rain and stuff while he's figuring things out, but normally a lot of people can kind of see each other, but it almost seemed like with him, like he vanished.
Right. That seemed to be the personality that he seemed to have the biggest connection to. Remember when he's talking with the judge and they show him the mirror, that's the face that he sees. And he's like, what did you do to my face? At least that's the face that he thinks he's going to see. Because he thinks that that's who he is, but he's not.
Yeah. So I loved all that. I love the mirror thing. I love when he looks into the, to the window. I thought all of that was done really well. And I thought that actor, definitely pulled it off with going back and forth.
Right. And of course, you go back to the very, very beginning where he talks about how, the doctors talk to him and saying, you were dropped off at a motel and abandoned there when you were a little kid, and your mother was a whore. And it turns out all of these things factor into later on. The whole dream thing takes place in a motel. One character is a whore. Another character hates the fact that she's a whore. And, it all adds up, which is nice. It's a nice touch when things connect like that.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out like where did each, because I think they said, like the one doctor says to the judge, that we've like extinguished 10 personalities, but there's only like 5 or 6 people that we're really dealing with. So who are those other personalities, and how do these personalities connect to him? So like you just said, some of them, but who's John Cusack? Was this the patient ever a cop or a limo driver?
Yeah, I think he is. He's almost like an idealized person that this guy, Pruitt wants to be. But there are other characters that are very, very one-dimensional. Things like Rebecca De Mornay's character. I'm not really sure where that character comes from or why somebody would latch onto that as a personality. It just seemed more like an easy throwaway kind of a person. Same thing with Clay Duvall's boyfriend. He just seemed like just kind of an easy throwaway. I saw no reason for those characters or those personalities to be part of that character's, brain. But, I guess you can't write it in such a way that there's meat for every single character. And so that's kind of a problem.
Do you think it's better to kind of just leave it up in the air, or should the writer have explained each person that was there?
I mean, you could done it in such a way that, even if it's like a quick flash and maybe there's your flashback and you're seeing, the kid as one of the personalities and he's watching a movie while the movie happens to be a movie where Rebecca De Mornay's character is in it. And therefore you see the connection there because, you know what I mean? There they are. I don't know. There's ways that you can do it. I imagine it's one of those things where you can keep perfecting a story over and over and over, but at some point you have to run with it, and you may not be able to solve every issue, and that's just one of the things. This was already, streets ahead of any of the Jack Frost movies that this guy had written before. So I'm inclined to give this guy a little slack.
Yeah, especially for writing something that's very complicated, but yet you understand what's going on at the same time. Because it doesn't seem like there's a lot missing. And if what is missing didn't make the movie confusing.
Right. This isn't Memento, and this isn't Dark City. This, you don't have to go to those depths for this. But I did want to ask you, this was all set in your neck of the woods. I was wondering what you thought about that, because it was Nevada, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's when I first saw it, I saw it in Pasadena or maybe LA. I'm not sure. And then when I moved out here and I purchased it and watched it a couple times, I went, oh yeah, that's right. This is Nevada. This is awesome. So that, pardon me. So that made me like it even more. So I love films that take place like in the snow or the rain, the desert, especially if they're kind of like whodunits, or thrillers, because that seems to impede people while they're trying to investigate. They're just not walking around on a beautiful sunny day where they could just walk from building to building and question person to person. There seems to be stuff that stops them. And with Vegas, you got the desert. So you're stuck out there if your car breaks down. And when it rains in Vegas, and I know Seattle and stuff like that are the same, but when it rains out here, it freaking rains. When I first moved out here, I helped a guy push his car out of, it was just the way that the streets were not made for rain. So it actually went up to my waist. And my pants were ruined. My shoes were ruined, trying to push his car out because the water was rising and it was getting almost above his windshield, from the door. So the rain that's in this movie, I could relate to. So yeah, I think that is one of the reasons why I like it so much, is that it's a Nevada based film. It's got the rain, the desert. We got the shitty motels. Of course, a lot of people do. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of that stuff that I like in it. So maybe it's a little more personal, I guess, in a way. Yeah.
So what did you think of the acting? I thought one of the main strengths of the film was that it was really, really well acted.
I would definitely agree with you on that. Yeah. That's where I think James Mangold has a lot of his strengths, especially with dealing with something like Copland, when you're dealing with like 6, 8 characters all at the same time. And these are heavy actors, like, Stallone, De Niro, and all that stuff. And you're able to do it. And you get good performances out. I mean, it's one of Stallone's best performances. I think that he was even nominated, I think, for an Academy Award, but didn't win it. Or maybe an actor's, award or something. I think he was nominated for one of those. But you wouldn't get that if it wasn't for that director, except for like Rocky or something. So I thought the acting was incredibly strong. I believed everybody in it. I thought that they were who they said that they were. I thought Ray did a really good job trying to be a cop and not screw it up. But he did from time to time, like trying to touch evidence with his hands. And Cusack's saying, no, dude, what are you doing? No, here, you use this. What are you doing?
But that makes sense because he's not a cop.
Right. And so he wouldn't be thinking, but he has to be a cop. He's just like, I got to fool these people, until I can get out of here. But he's screwing up. And in some cases, I think with a different actor, it might have been a little more obvious. But with him, you kind of think like Cusack does. Why is this guy picking up something without like a glove or something, a napkin or whatever it is? So I thought everybody did a really good job. I've always been a fan of Amanda Peet, and she just kind of disappeared, but I thought she did a good job. I mean, I love when she's talking to the guy that runs the motel, and he just immediately goes to start talking to somebody else. And she's like, I'm right here. I'm not done talking to you. So, people like to say there are no strong roles for women and stuff like that. That's a strong character. She didn't take his shit. Mm-hmm. And she used some, some stuff in there to hit people with. So, she was, she's a strong character. So Clea Duvall, no, but she was. So what did you think?
Clea Duvall kind of sobbed her way through the whole thing. Her character was kind of a mess, but what are you going to do? I think the one I liked the best was John Cusack, because, I grew up with John Cusack as being that sort of, the lovable, young, romantic person that he was in all those movies in the 80s. And this was very, very against type for him. And I was glad to see it. And I remember seeing in a couple of reviews that some people complained. They said that he seemed very tired and worn out. And I'm like, but that's what this character needed. That's the whole point of this character. And I thought that he portrayed that very, very well. He's kind of sort of taking over the situation, but he doesn't really want to. He's doing it because he has to, because there's nobody else who's going to be able to do this, because he already sees that there's something fishy going on with Ray Liotta's character, and somebody's got to step up and take control of the situation, and he's doing it reluctantly, but he's doing it, but he just doesn't want to have to do it.
Yeah. I thought that he was very good, and I like that we slowly reveal who he is and what's in his brain. And first we do just think that he's a limo driver, and he would be worn out if you had to drive with that character in the back of your car, the Rebecca DeMonet character, the same Caroline Suzanne, an 80s Hollywood TV actress, who is just a total diva, and that's all she's doing is bitching on the phone because they didn't give her the right trailer or the right food or the right water. I think you'd be worn out too. Plus it seems like he's still dealing with all the stuff that when we find out later that he's a cop, and then we find out even later why he's now not a cop, which is sad, which is really interesting when you think this is all in this patient's head of how he's made this whole identity up for this. Oh, hence the title. For that character that, he was the cop, and then, the girl who has AIDS and she killed herself. She jumped off the building and he just left. I mean, that's great. That's a pretty big detail for just a personality.
Right. And then when you figure all of these personalities are walled off from each other, so they do not know anything about each other. So they're interacting as if they've never met, because in his head, they're completely separate. They have never met. And of course, every now and again, and aside from having the certain characters who are not going to like each other, you're going to have some that do. So clearly there's some kind of a romantic spark between Cusack's character and Amanda Peet's character that we're all, as the audience, kind of hoping that they sort of, make it out together. And it's kind of sweet towards the end, when he's going and he's like, I hope you get that orange grove. And, you're really kind of pulling for. But at the same time, you have to sit back and go, wait a second, these are fucking puppets, man. These are two characters who do not exist that are in this guy's head. And so you're kind of watching a movie about a movie playing in this guy's head, and we're the audience for both. And it works at many levels at that time. And that's one of the strengths of the film that I really like.
Do you think that the when they're at the hearing, that from what we're able to watch, do you think that the judge was correct in not giving him the death sentence?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I would say, I'm pretty much anti-death penalty anyway, unless it's for like the really, really obvious nut jobs, or not nut jobs, but homicidal people out there. But if this person has demonstrated the reality of this multiple personality disorder, you can't say that he is responsible for what he's doing when he doesn't even know who he is. How do you do that? The shame of it is that you have states where they don't care, like Texas. Texas is notorious for killing you. It doesn't matter even if what your mental state is considered. I remember there was a sad case of one guy who they gave him his last meal. And this is a guy that had killed somebody, but they said that his mental state was that of a 7-year-old or 6-year-old. But they gave him his last meal and he only ate half of it. And he said he was going to save the rest for later. And they're like, there is no later. Ugh. And he doesn't understand. This wasn't him playing to try to get out. This was for real, and they just executed him anyway. And that's like one of the saddest things I've ever heard. So some states, they don't give a shit, So it's an important topic that is very touchy and very timely, especially these days. And I would like to have seen that addressed a little bit more. But, that's a tough thing to go back to a movie that was done in 2003, primarily as a horror / whodunit, and lump that on top of everything else. In addition to being entertaining, it just would have been nice if it had been a little bit more. And I would love to see another movie explore that. Like I said, Three Faces of Eve is one of the ones that sort of touches on that, but that was years and years ago. And you don't get a whole lot of films that really explore that. Although I do think that Mangold sort of tries in Girl Interrupted. But it's a
oh yeah, thing. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Well, they also explored it with Green Mile. Mm-hmm. Where like all the guards knew that Coffey was innocent, but they still had to kill. They still had to kill him. That was, and they, by the end, when they did it, they knew who he was. They that he wasn't really human, and they still had to do it. And, Yeah, so it's one of those things that definitely should be addressed. Probably with something like Identity, they just don't want to, they don't want to bash it over the head because it is a mainstream movie. So today it would be bashed over your head, one way or the other, But back
Right.
then,
That's the thing. That's the thing is, Hollywood or the people involved in it were a lot more subtle, and you could make messages subtly, and it works within the film. Whereas now, you're right, you just get hammered over the head, and there's no subtlety whatsoever, and it just drives me freaking crazy.
well, yeah,
It's
and
shitty.
I think that you would probably know pretty quick that everybody at the motel is in his head. I don't think that it would have progressed the way that it did, today. I think that it would have been a lot more obvious because, Hollywood thinks people are stupid, that they're not going to be able to understand it. And that in the hearing, they would, maybe they'd be something like, draw what you're seeing, draw what you're seeing. And they give him the pad with like a pencil or a crayon or something. And then he's just scribbling, and it just looks, what is that? It looks like a motel. Is he seeing a motel? And then everybody within 10 minutes knows, oh, this shit's all in his head. Where before it's step by step by step that we finally realize, what's going on. So when we find out that it is the little kid, what did you think about that? Did you think that was a little hokey, or did the little kid not bother you?
That was hokey. That was one twist too many. I understand it's not a real kid; it's a personality, and the kid part is metaphoric. However, because he's a kid, there's baggage that goes with it, and so that baggage, it's difficult to separate from the personality, and it was more of a groaner to me than a ooh, shocker, surprise. And I just thought it was one twist too many.
Does maybe you thought the same way as me, that the kid is him, as like that's actually him. He's the worst personality, but that is him. So he, as a kid, he was tortured. He saw his mom having sex. He was all this horrible stuff. And that's why the kid was the worst and probably the most powerful, that since he wasn't real, he would be more like Freddy, I guess. And that he could, because you would think that the husband, Duvall's husband, would be able to take on a little kid with a knife. You just got to kick him out of the way. So something must have happened to where the kid is a little more powerful than everybody, because they just be like, hey, Timmy, how are you? And then, you wouldn't expect for him to just go all Chucky on you.
It's true, but on the other hand, you would think that even that personality would have some kind of a sense of self-preservation, because if you're now going off and you're killing off all the other ones, and you're the one that's responsible for murdering people, they're going to find that out. You know what I mean? And then you're going to be killed. Whereas you keep yourself hidden, no one's going to ever find out. And, you can get away with the being put off in a mental institution. You know what I mean?
Well, I wonder if they even knew about the kid, because if you remember at the very end, when Amanda Pete, once, everybody's dead, and then back in the hearing, they think they're all dead and that he's fine, that the good one is there, and she's off to that that orange grove. We never see the kid. She drives out alone. Like I was almost thinking, like, did I just maybe miss the kid? Is he in the truck with her? And no, when she's happy, probably, I don't know how long she was supposed to be living there, because it's only maybe like a day or two later in real life. And then she finds the key, which is her, and then the little kid kills her. I wonder if they even knew of that personality. Like maybe that was the deepest, darkest one.
Or what I like to think is that there's another one that we don't actually even see, and that all of these are just manifestations to this other character that we never even meet. Because if you remember, the poem that begins and ends the movie talks about the man that wasn't there. And the man that wasn't there could be that central character that we never meet.
Right. It's possible. Or it could be the kid. Maybe the kid. Or it could be something else. Yeah. If he had 10 personalities, maybe there was 11 and we never saw number 11.
Right. And that's one of the most difficult things about multiple personality disorders, is that you never really know exactly how many personalities are actually in there. You
Right.
can only guess based on what you're able to put together, but nobody's flawless. You don't really know, and the person who's got them may not even know. I mean, nobody really knows. So it's just a very interesting and complex situation, and it's a tough thing to utilize in your story, but I thought that they did a pretty good job with this one.
Yeah, and I will agree with you because we'll wrap this up in a couple minutes. The very ending I thought was a little generic. That when they're in the desert and they got him in the back of the car and he's kind of doing the talking to himself, and then Alfred Molina just opens that gate, and you're
Yeah.
like, that's it, they're dead. And then that's when we realize that the kid has taken over, and I don't know how really he would kill everybody in the van. I'm guessing there's the driver, Alfred Molina, and then the patient. And I mean, I would think that he's handcuffed or secured to the chair, or secured to the chair. But somehow, yeah,
Yeah, it's a
he
little
kills.
sloppy.
Yeah, he kills Alfred Molina. They swerve and then they stop on the road. I'm guessing that the cop in the car or the van is dead too.
Mm. And then, of
So
course, you could always go back and say, well, all of that's in his head too. The entire movie's in the guy's head, and you don't really know.
okay, all right. Identity on top of identity on top of identity.
Right.
Wow. So if you made Identity 2, then you could say, oh no, he only says that. That was in his head. The van never happened. The Alfred Molina character was never there. These were all personalities still. And so now we're gonna have Identity 2, where we have 5 more characters, not at a motel, but they'll be at a cabin, like a dilapidated cabin.
It'll be secret identity, and it turns out it was the judge the entire time.
Trying to get him off of death row. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I think we just came up with Identity 2.
There you go.
Identity 2, the
John
judge.
Mangold on the phone. Hello.
Yeah, get him away from Indiana Jones and let him do this.
Oh yeah, please. But I mean, I think Columbia Pictures owns the rights to this, and I doubt we're going to see. A sequel.
Well, Vacancy was a pretty big hit, and they did the direct-to-video Vacancy 2, the first cut. So maybe there could be a direct-to-streaming Identity 2, the judge, or something like that.
Right. You never know.
It came 10 years later. What was it? Strangers 2?
You have secret identity, stolen identity, mistaken identity. You could have all kinds of sequels.
I'm into it. So, all right. So now my ratings are a little different from you guys. I just do 1 star bad, 5 stars good. So what rating would you give this?
So 1 to 5, including halves.
Sure. Yeah. Points. Yeah.
I'd say I'd probably give this a 3.5 stars.
3.5 out of 5. Okay.
Movie. Yeah. Whereas, like, say a 2.5 is like a standard movie, 3 is above average, 3.5 is a good movie, 4 is a really good movie, 4.5 is an exceptional movie, and a 5 is like super fantastic Stanley Kubrick kind of stuff.
Could I convince you to give it 4 stars because it's a film that you haven't seen? You thought maybe it wasn't going to be like this. You were surprised by it. You maybe didn't think that you would like it as much. Could you be persuaded to go up that 0.5 to 4?
Probably not. Not.
Okay.
I think 3.5 is fair.
Okay.
Again, if you assume that a 3 is above average, I'd say that this is more than above average, but not quite into a really good film.
Okay.
For me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would give it 4.5, 4.5. Only because of the kind of more of the ending, I think. Yeah, of like the Alfred Molina opening the cage door and all of a sudden it kind of almost turning into like a standard slasher type thing, for a sequel. that I didn't like as much. But I don't know. Maybe if it just ended with the orange grove and the kid killing Amanda Peet, maybe ended there, might be a little bit better. Just kind of leave it like that. But otherwise, I would probably give it a 5 if it didn't have some of the standard slasher stuff in it instead of a thriller. So you got 3.5. I got 5, and I finally understand your stinkometer. I finally understand that 10 being the worst and 1 being the best. I finally understand it. That when somebody says, when you walk into a room and does it stink, somebody doesn't go, yeah, it stinks like a 1. No, it stinks like a 10.
Exactly.
So 10 is the worst. So I finally understand it. It took me all this time, but I finally understand your guys' stinkometer.
And even if it's the worst, that doesn't necessarily mean that you hated it. It could be extremely entertaining. Usually we think of 5 as bad because it's kind of meh. You know, it's not a good movie, and it doesn't really move you in any particular direction. It's not a good movie. You know, a terrible movie can at least be extremely enjoying. You know, you can get a lot of fun out of it, but it's still bad because of the production values and everything associated with it. You know, like Alien Beast, the movie we were talking about, that was just a terrible, terrible movie. I still enjoyed it, and I love inflicting it on people.
Jonathan told me that you had a very hard time with me giving it the review that I did.
Well, it was so surprising. I was certain everybody was going to give it a 10. It just took me by surprise.
I'd never seen one of his films before, and I thought, from what I've heard, it actually showed some sort of capability of making a film. Like, it's worse than Ed Wood, because Ed Wood could still do the beginning, middle, and end. He has good music. It's edited fine and all that. It's just his sets mostly. But this is way, way down there. But I didn't think it was as horrible as you guys, because I just had never seen any of his movies. I knew of the director. I might still be friends with him on Facebook. But yeah.
The fun thing for me, I mean, obviously, to me, it's a terrible, terrible, terrible movie. However, that weird psychedelic claymation ending sort of puts it over the top for me and turns it into, wow, this is a lot of fun. In addition to being a weird, terrible movie, it's actually a very interesting film. And those are the kind of films that I like. You know, I don't want to find a terrible, boring movie. I want to find a bad, fun movie that is unlike anything else. And to me, that's what Alien Beast was, because it's poor, it's cheap, it's shitty. But at the same time, it's not like anything else you're ever going to see. And it's kind of crazy and kind of neat and kind of individual, you know, in its own way, unique.
Right. Yeah, people should go check that out. So it's called Alien Beast. It's a indie film cafe. And you guys have many kind of like subgenres going down. So what genre is that one in? What's the title of it?
Well, I mean, it's just you know, I guess you would call it science fiction horror. I guess.
Oh no, but like, where do you guys have it on the channel? Like, Jonathan has, you know, like his Man-Eater series, then he has his Hitchcock series, and he has his. Is this under like a particular series or?
Oh, it's part of the Indie Film Cafe. So if you go to Indie Film Cafe, I think it's season 3, season 4, maybe. I don't remember at this point because my brain is a cow. But yeah, if you go to our webpage and you go to the different seasons, you'll see the different movies that are done. So yeah, I think it's season 3.
Okay. And is there anything that you want to promote or anything before we take off? Because I'm gonna let you go in a minute.
Other than Indie Film Cafe, you know, we're trying to also get some of our other podcasts up and about. You know, I have Forgotten Horror Class to dust off and redo. I lost my main co-host for that because she went on to get her PhD. You know, how dare somebody go off and have a nice life and all that.
Education, who needs it?
So I'm looking for somebody full-time for that. And then I also have Sexploitation Sleazecast that I do with Rebecca Reinhardt, where we sort of dissect really terrible, stinky, adult-oriented kinds of movies that lots of boobage and stuff like that. So that's been a lot of fun. Some of those movies are just incredibly terrible. We started with Bad Pussy and we went all the way down from there. Um, so yeah, we have a lot of shows that we like to cover, and there's just there's so much time and so little of it. I almost wish I didn't have another actual career and I could just devote all my time to talking about movies. But alas, this is the world we live in. So
Yeah, I hear you. I work 40 hours a week, and trying to fit all this in is not easy.
and you're a filmmaker in your own right, so that's
Yeah.
even more duty.
Yeah, I got to take a break from all this at one point, maybe for like a month, and just get stuff done. So I just like it. Every month I seem to get like an extra, subscriber onto the YouTube channel. And I really appreciate
Good.
that. I like that. It's small. I have 116 subscribers compared to 1,000 or 1,000,000 that some other people have. I'm far away from getting that little check mark down there from YouTube and the plaque, but I've mentioned it before where I figured I'd have 2 people subscribe. That's about it. So to have
Yeah,
116 is pretty awesome.
we're all kind of a niche subject, so it's going to take a little while for you to sort of build your audience, but keep plugging it. I mean, that's the good thing about doing movies is that there are millions and millions and millions of them, so there's plenty to talk about.
Oh yeah. 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 I got to talk about some new stuff. So that's, I tend to talk about the old stuff and need to talk about Scream and Ghostbusters, and maybe that will get more subscribers on there. So
Yeah. And that's kind of where Moody and I are a little bit different. He likes to talk about stuff that's more established. I like to find the stuff that's flown under the radar, that's been forgotten, or that people just never heard of, the weird, strange things that are lurking out there. And believe me, there's a ton of stuff out there. And a lot of it sort of deserves its little spotlight. Even if it was terrible, as long as it's entertaining, that's the most important thing to me.
right. Yeah. Well, and that's why I like that Indie Film Cafe kind of has its own thing and I have my own thing, even though we are connected. Like I don't try to do what you guys do, and you don't seem to try to do what I just do. I mean, I just put up a video for Roger Corman collection. You guys aren't looking at
Roger Corman.
10 Roger Corman films, that you own. So it's different than what you guys do. So it's not just like, oh, great, John's also reviewing this. They're going to be 2 totally separate things. So,
right. So, I try to do things like, Biker Warrior Babe versus the Zombie Babies from Hell. I mean, how many people are going to know about that movie? Not too many.
Right.
And we've been getting good feedback from Indie Film Cafe Spotlight, where we talk about folks like you, directors, writers, and actors who are making these movies. And the feedback we've been getting has been pretty positive. Even if we say things about their movies that they don't, particularly like, they're saying at least the movies are being talked about. They're not being forgotten. And the name is ringing out there. And I think that's the most gratifying thing for some of these folks is, I mean, even if somebody loves it or doesn't love it, the fact that it's being mentioned is positive in and of itself.
Right. Yeah, I do get afraid of a little bit of, if I happen to review somebody's film that I know, it's like, maybe avoid those. But, review The Graduate. I don't know anybody from that movie. They're for the most part dead. So it's just like, okay, that's fine.
Exactly. And Moody's very much like you because, he figures, he might want to work with some of these folks someday. Whereas me, I'm not going to work with anybody other than, I get to work in Moody's stuff, but that's about it. So, I don't have to worry about it.
Well, I know that I'm going to be doing like when they bring out all the Meat Hook Massacre films finally, where you could just buy them, just as like a collection. I'm actually going to review all of those. And of course, I made part 4. So guess what film is going to be the best one? Spoilers, mine. So sorry if you're number 2, but mine's number 1. So I'm not, that it's that simple. And then I thought of going through and talking about like the Camp Blood movies, but do them as a collection and not attack a filmmaker on them, but look at them as a full series. So kind of like looking at Planet of the Apes or something. You just look at it as a whole, and then maybe that's how people
and
get offended.
I don't really look at it as an attack. I try to be honest. I try to have integrity. I try to say things that I feel are actually true, and I try to back up what I say with examples and with concrete evidence. And this is why I think it's the way it is. So people can either look at it as an attack or they can look at it as constructive criticism, I guess. I mean, and you would think in this business, most people would have thick skins.
Oh
They
no.
would learn to
Oh
take,
no.
mistakes and do better.
No,
You
no, no,
know,
no, no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No. Not at all. No. There are certain people out there that are tissue thin. I mean, it's if you all they want is positive feedback, so they don't grow. I had for the first Axmas film, one of the reviews I got, the girl, whatever you want to say these days, called it an abortion. And I did take it. At first I went, fuck you, but then I started laughing at it and posted on Facebook and going, look, my film's an abortion. I'm like, well, why is it an abortion? It's a 30-minute low budget Santa killer movie. Who gives a shit? Why is it an abortion? It's not like Harvey Weinstein produced it or something.
Right. See, the kind of thing. I mean, I wouldn't say something like that. I might say it was a bad film, but then I would go on and list all the reasons why I thought it was. You know, and even if it's a bad film, again, that doesn't matter. What matters is it entertaining? And if you can say yes, then that's great. And you'll notice every single film, no matter how or what we talk about it, we always give the links to say, here's how you can pay or how you can buy the movie, preferably from the artist, because we think these are movies that should be seen. We don't want them to fade into obscurity. If we really hated a movie, we would never talk about it.
Right. Oh, I'm going to be doing one for reviews after midnight that I almost threw the movie in the garbage. And I'm going to, and I don't want to sit through it again, but I'm going to, so I can review it, because I hated this movie so much. And it wasn't the one that we discussed earlier. It's a totally different movie. It's supposed to be some like, it's just bad. It's just absolutely horrible and false advertising and all this type of stuff. And I thought of destroying the movie on video, just cracking it and tearing it, and because I hate it so much. So
I hear you. You get that sometimes, but you know what? On the other hand, the thing about it is I kind of look at things a little differently for independent filmmakers, because most of the time they don't have the kind of budgets that really allows them to do the things that they want to do. So even if it fails, I'll give them some props for at least trying. Whereas if you're in Hollywood and you're sitting on $150-200 million budget and you shit out a piece of garbage and you've just wasted all that money, you could have made such a great film, but you had all this money, you don't have an excuse. I will not hold back on a Hollywood film. I will tear it to shreds and not feel bad about it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's yeah. This isn't like a big budget movie that I'm referring to. It's also not small budget either. It's somewhere in between. Like, you could tell they had money, but it wasn't, Warner Brothers money. It'd be more like, I guess, Blumhouse money type of thing. So it's just like, you guys had money and you offended me with this movie, and I luckily it was a Dollar Tree movie, so I only spent $1. So, but I want that $1 back.
The only other thing that has creeped into my life over the last 30 years that is different than, say, when I was a teenager, that offends me now as opposed to back then, is I'm a lot more sensitive, and it's got nothing to do with current being woke or any of that kind of stuff. But I really, really dislike torture porn, especially when it's just the whole thing is nothing more than an excuse to torture females, especially. It's usually what it comes down to. And that just, there's an underlying level of misogyny. That's bad enough. But the idea that this filmmaker, that I am going to find enjoyment by watching some innocent female getting tormented and tortured for 90 minutes, why the hell would I find that entertaining? You know what I mean? That, to me, that's offensive. So something like Blood-Sucking Freaks is a movie that I freaking hate. Hate that movie to death. You'd think it'd be right up my alley because it's a shitty movie, and it is a shitty movie. But the ideas behind that movie and why it thinks itself as entertainment is offensive to me. And I just don't like torture porn in general. Don't think it's something I like. And there are other people that watch it. I watch a lot of it. I have a lot of it, but I don't like it overall.
I think it matters what the definition of torture porn is, because that was created by one person who then labeled a bunch of movies for it. It was a critic. And now, like, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is called torture porn. Well, it's not. It was made to be torture porn, you know, and it basically came from Hostel. I believe the first Hostel movie is where the person said, I'm not sure if it was a male or female critic, but they called it torture porn, and it kind of stuck with those types of movies. So, like, I don't consider Saw to be torture porn. You know, I actually consider Saw to be well written, and it normally has a message behind it.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking more things like, you know, Serbian film, or there are some other ones out there. Gosh, I can't. My brain's not thinking on that line right now, but you know, there are other ones out there where there's no other purpose than to show off gore and violence, and you know, usually for helpless people. It's one thing if you let them fight back, but they never let them fight back. And its object is to, you know, take somebody and just make them extremely small. And there's just something about that offends me, not because of what it's happening, but in the idea that I'm supposed to find that entertaining, or I'm supposed to root for that. Why would I root for that? Why would I want to see that? I just, right. It turns me off overall.
No, I get it. I understand it. So I used to, and I kind of still do, rape revenge films like I Spit on Your Grave, I have a little bit of a hard time with, or films where there's bullies that like torture people, but yet then they get killed at the end by the person that they're torturing. There's, you know, stuff like The New Kids or Bullies, even stuff like Tough Turf. There's just where somebody thinks that they're superior to everybody else, and they could just go hurt them for no reason at all. Those I had a problem with, but at least the people that are being tortured get revenge at the end and kill them. So, you know, that's, you know.
Well, in terms of blood-sucking freaks, it turns out, I don't remember where I remember reading it, but they said that was the #1 prison rental of all time.
Wow.
Which explains a lot.
Oh, maybe they're just renting it for the name. I mean, that is a pretty great name.
Yeah, or there's just a lot of, you know, people in there who just love the idea of women being tortured. You know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right. Well, what do you say? You want to wrap this up?
Okay, sounds good to me. Thanks for having me on the show. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, and I like that we kind of went beyond the movie and discussed some other stuff too, because you know, people I think like to hear how people review things and what they like and what they don't like. So, you know, it's sure, important.
Any old time you need a guest, let me know.
Oh, definitely. So yeah, I appreciate that. So thank you once again for coming on, and everybody go check out.
We'll have you back on our show too.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I enjoy being on with you guys. So check out Identity. Either buy it or check it out on Netflix. Down here it does say 2 thumbs up, so you know that Ebert and Roper liked it. So that's if you like their recommendations. Yeah, a lot of special features on this disc. Look at all those. It's a lot of stuff.
And I would say that both John Ward and Paul Presenza gave it hooves up.
Yes. I give it 4.5 udders. You gave it 3.5 udders.
Outstanding.
All right, there we go. So we ended on laughing. I think that's a good point than talking about like snuff films or torture porn. So there you go. All right. Well, thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it, and I'll see you. I'm going to try to do this maybe once or twice a month, and we'll see where that takes us. So. All right.
Sounds good. Thanks very much.
Bye, Thank everyone. You. Bye, everybody. Bye. Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out after the video. And thank you for watching the very first Dark Park Films sponsored video. And who is that sponsor? Well, I've now learned if I do this with my hands, they go to the right area. There we go. That would be Wildlife Command Center Coffee, and you can purchase it right there. You can go to their website, which is buyWCC.com, and pick up their coffee. They have 2 blends, which I'm going to show you now. The first coffee is this one right here. This is a breakfast blend. It's 10 ounces, and it is a medium ground. And it does say, and it's breakfast, like I said, and this is what it says right here. It says, early bird can catch the worm. So there you go, a breakfast blend coffee that helps you catch the worm in the morning. And I really like this one. I'm more of a breakfast kind of blend coffee guy in the morning. So this one I really like. It has that little bit of oomph to it to kind of get you moving, get you up and out. And so I really enjoy this one, but that doesn't mean that I don't like the other one, which is this one right here. This is a dark roast. It is also 10 ounces, and both of these are $7.99 at their website. Pretty good price for 10 ounces worth of ground coffee. This one is, it's a little darker. So it's, I think it's better for drinking at night. Maybe if you're, writing a screenplay or if you're filming, this has got that oomph, that double punch to get you going. So this is one that I also recommend. I like both of these quite a bit, but I kind of do, the breakfast in the morning and then the dark more at night. So I recommend both of these quite a bit. And how did I find out about these two, these 2 coffees here? And how did I find out about Wildlife Command Center? Well, when I was working on Night of the Zomghouls, there was a box of coffee that was just sitting there filled with coffee. And we didn't know what to do with it. Like, whose is this? Who brought it? Why is it here? And so we just kept going to the store and buying coffee. And then one day I said, why don't we just get the coffee out of the box and use that instead of, wasting money on going to Smith's or whatever and picking up coffee. So we did. We did not realize that it was the Wildlife Command Center coffee and that it, was sponsoring the movie. And it was great coffee. Everybody loved it. And we just went right through it. By the last day of filming, this coffee was gone. And I went and found out, about Wildlife Command Center, asked if they would like to be a sponsor for Dark Park Films, for their coffee. As many of you know, I love coffee. I love coffee mugs. And so this was a perfect match. And Wildlife Command Center is great with animals. So they provide a great service for rescuing animals. So it's kind of that double whammy for me, where coffee, helping animals, you can't go wrong. And they were even cool enough to send me, get in there, a coffee mug, because they knew that I liked coffee mugs. And right now, I don't get that. That a little bit. I'm going to go on the keyboard, but that's their dark blend, because I'm recording this at night. So I am actually drinking that while recording. Also, one thing that you can get at their website, which is cool, is you can get this. There you go. This pocket knife, which is $9.49. And this is pretty cool because it has their name on it. Wildlife Command Center, we can catch it. And this is what it looks like. Put that down there. There we go. Fully out. So you're getting like the bottle opener, you got the corkscrew, you got a screwdriver, you got a blade, and then you got this little hook thing that you can pop it into something that doesn't have a tab, and then the liquid or whatever in there will come out. So this is pretty cool. And I'm just going to keep mine in my car, because you never know, you might need a pocket knife. So please support them. I'm going to have links down below, where you can, check out just the Wildlife Command Center. I'll also have a link for Wildlife Command Center coffee, and it will basically be for both these guys right here. And please support them. I support them. I think what they do is pretty awesome. And maybe this coffee will be on your set or in your kitchen. It will definitely be, on my set in my kitchen. I know that. So please, once again, I'm going to show you these. Please go to their website and pick up their coffee and make it part of your day or night, depending on which one you like. So that'll be about it. I really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with me. And yeah, so thank you. And once again, please support my channel. Please support the Wildlife Command Center. And I will catch you later. Bye.